The Ballad of William Bloat by Raymond Calvert. So I'm going to start off by looking at the stanzas. So we see that there are 5 stanzas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And each stanza has 6 lines, or it's called a sestet. So we see the 6 lines per stanza. Then the setting of this poem is in a house in the morning. So we see this because it says, in a mean abode in Shankill Road. So that's abode means house, and that's the road that they're on. And then down here it says one day at dawn with her night dress on. So we know it's in the morning and they're probably just waking up. The point of view is third person omniscient because we know his feelings, and I'll go down to the stanzas and point out some examples of this. Then we have the rhyme of the poem. So road, we would label A. And then bloat would be B. Life would be C because it's new. And then we have goat. So there we would go back to B. On, D. And then throat rhymes with goat and bloat. So we go back to B. And this goes throughout the poem. So we'll do another stanza. Hash would be E. Quick, F. Pillow slip would be G. Sick would rhymes with quick, so we would go back to F. Floor would be H, and then quick or thick, sorry, would be F back again. So we see that every other line rhymes. But then we also see here that in the lines that do not end with the rhyme have a rhyme in themselves. So if we go here, we have abode. Highlight this a different color. Rhymes with road. And then so if we have wife and life, and then we have dawn and on, and then down here we also have gash and hash, drip and pillow slip, and that goes on throughout the whole poem. So there's a rhyme in every line, no matter if it's at the end or in the middle. Then we can talk about the meter. The meter is a ballad meter, which means it is using alternating lines of iambic tetrameter and iambic trimeter with the rhyme scheme of A, B, C, B. So we see that here. We see the 4 beats and then 3 beats, and then we have the rhyme that is described. And it's also the ballad meter also is narrating a story in short stanzas. So these stanzas are pretty short because they're only 6 lines. So we see that perfect definition there. Okay, so to start, we're going to look at the first stanza. There's imagery in a mean abode, so we can imagine an average looking house because mean can mean average. And then we see the day at dawn with her night dress on, so we can imagine in the morning a woman just waking up with her nightgown on. And also in the last line, we see bloody throat. That is a very good image that we can see. We can imagine the blood on her throat because he cut it. We also see a little alliteration right here with got his goat. I like that different color. Got his goat. Because we have the repeating words, or the repeating sound, which it also adds a little humor. Got his goat. It's mostly dark humor since it starts out pretty dark. And there also can be personification when it says a mean abode. We know mean can mean average, but it also we can take it as a mean house since there is murder happening in there. On to stanza 2, there's imagery with a razor gash, so we can imagine the gash of a razor. And also right here we have drip, drip, drip on the pillow slip. This can be used as onomatopoeia of the sound of the blood dripping, but it also symbolizes what is going on. Then down on this line we have a pool of gore. Gore symbolizes the blood that we see, or the blood that he is talking about, because when we think of gory, we think of blood, we think of gross, so it's a good symbolism right there. And another thing of imagery is grew clotted, cold, and thick. So we can imagine how the blood is looking because it's cold, it's thick. That's just how blood is when it's rushing out. And we can move down to the third stanza. And we have some more imagery here. Still and stiff is a good example of imagery because it says, when she lay there still and stiff. So we know that she is dead and, well, per se, we know that she is dead and laying there. And then down here we see, but a sudden awe of angry law struck his heart with an icy chill. This can be personification because the angry law did not struck or hit his heart exactly. And it also shows the point of view because we see that we know his feelings and what's going through his head, what's hitting his heart the most since he just killed his wife. Then we can go down to the fourth stanza. He took the sheet from the wife's cold feet. The cold feet, that's another example of imagery right there. And then we can go down to the last line with this is what I want to hit hard on with he solemnly cursed the Pope. So we see in the face of death with his lastest breath because he's killing himself because he hanged himself from the pantry shelf. So he solemnly cursed the Pope. In his last words, he could have said anything for his last words, but he chose to curse the Pope. The Pope is a religious Catholic figure, so we know that he is not Catholic because if someone was Catholic, they would not be bashing someone they think highly of. So we know that he definitely hates the Catholic faith. So now to the fifth and last stanza, we see the reference of hell. He went to hell, but his wife got well. This is a very important line in the poem for many reasons, but I want to highlight hell because he's referencing something that Catholics and Protestant would think about because hell, so he's going to hell for his wrongdoings. And it also says sinning. That is a very big aspect in the Catholic faith, so it's another Catholic reference. And the last two lines I want to highlight because they are very important. For the razor blade was German made, but the sheet was Belfast linen. He killed his wife by slitting her throat with a razor blade. And so this is a very good example of symbolism because he's saying that the Germans have poor craftsmanship because he tried to kill his wife with a blade that was made from the Germans, but it didn't do the job right because he's blaming the razor blade for not doing the job. But he hung himself with a sheet, and that's the type of murder that worked. So he is saying that the Belfast linen was high quality because it was made right, but the blade was at fault. Not him, the blade, because it was made by the Germans, because they have poor craftsmanship. This is a very, this symbolizes the conflict of Germany versus Ireland. So it's the competition of who is better, the Protestants or the Catholics. And this shows that he was most likely Protestant because of the reference with the Pope and with the hate of the Germans. Overall, looking throughout the whole poem again, I'm going to talk about the mood. The mood starts off as very dark because he's killing his wife for his wife's actions. He's describing it very well of how he killed her and all the blood dripping everywhere. And then it almost ends as like a dark humor and almost comical because he actually ended up killing himself but not killing his wife when he only really wanted to kill his wife in the beginning. For the themes of the poem, there's a couple. We see the theme of Protestant versus Catholics, which we see a lot in history of who is better, and Protestants think they're better for a long period of time, but the Catholics, they think they're better as well. There's another theme of justice in the poem, so it can be those who commit crimes will be punished, and those who do not will live and will not be punished. So the man in the story is punished by dying because he wanted to kill his wife and attempted to kill his wife, but his wife did not die because her wrongdoings were probably minor. And there's also a lot of conflict in this poem. We see an external conflict with the fighting between the Catholics and and Protestants, and we also see his conflict with killing his wife. So he physically killed his wife. And then we see the internal conflict with himself because he killed himself.